You, Chapter 3. A stunned silence descended upon fractured hills, broken only by the whimpers of the enslaved fawns, and the heavy breaths of the newly formed fawn girl. Her pitched black eyes, which moments before held a chilling emptiness, now conveyed a flicker of confusion as she looked at Ripto. Daddy? She uttered, her voice thin and hesitant, as if the concept of fatherhood was entirely new and bewildering to her. She looked up at Ripto with an almost childlike innocence that was utterly jarring given the grotesque circumstances of her creation. Elora, despite her pain, would be pierced by the fawn girl's uncertain question. The word daddy, uttered by this being born of Ripto's dark magic and embodying a part of Elora's own essence, would be a twisted echo in her ears, a wave of conflicting emotions, horror at Ripto's manipulation, a surge of protective instinct for the fawn girl who, despite her origins, was clearly vulnerable, and a burning desire to sever Ripto's twisted control would war within her. Hunter, his rage temporarily overridden by a profound sense of confusion and disbelief, would stare at the scene, speechless. The fawn girl calling Ripto daddy would be such a jarring juxtaposition against the violence and maleficence they had just witnessed, leaving him momentarily bewildered. The professor, his scientific mind struggling to reconcile the bizarre reality unfolding before him, might let out a soft exclamation of remarkable, disturbing. The fawn girl's evident confusion would be another data point in his assessment of this dark creation, potentially indicating that she wasn't fully a maleficent entity from the outset, but perhaps a blank slate imprint with Ripto's influence. The enslaved fawns would be utterly terrified, their confusion adding to their despair. The sight of one of their own, however twisted, calling their tormentor daddy would be a profound, unsettling, and demoralizing sight. Ripto, however, would likely revel in this moment. The fawn girl's tentative daddy would be music to his ears, a confirmation of his power and his ability to corrupt and control. His smirk would undoubtedly widen, perhaps even a chuckle escaping his throat, as he relished in the success of his dark magic and the complete horror it inflicted on Elora and her friends. Ripto embraced the fawn girl and declared his claim. "I'm your father," he said. He then named her Darken, the name representing gloom and the absence of light, highlighted Ripto's malicious intent to corrupt and control Avalar. Elora might react with horror and fury, her eye, now part of the Faund girl, would be a symbol of Ripto's vengeance. She might struggle against her restraints, seeking to stop Ripto. Hunter might become enraged, possibly shouting threats at Ripto. He would be desperate to protect Elora and seek justice. The professor might feel dread. The name Darken and Ripto's possessiveness would confirm the danger. He might express horror and determination, understanding the threat. The enslaved fawns might fall into despair. This new daughter, Darken, would symbolize their broken hopes and a bleak future. Their cries might increase, realizing the extent of Ripto's control. Ripto would be unaware of the suffering, reveling in the fear and despair and the joy of creating Darken, who would serve him. In fractured hills, Ripto embraced Darken, the newly formed Faund girl. Ripto declared, "I'm your father," solidifying his claim over the creature born of dark magic and Elora's suffering. He named her Darken, a name that reflected the gloom and absence of light embodied in her being and in his tyrannical rule over Avalar. Darken hugged Ripto, her black eyes shining. "Oh, Daddy, I'm truly alive at last," she exclaimed. The declaration seemed to solidify Ripto's malevolent vision. Elora, chained and bruised, would be overcome with horror and fear. Her own eye, now residing within the Faund girl, served as a potent symbol of Ripto's cruelty and vengeance. Hunter, witnessing this, would be consumed by rage and desperation. The professor would be filled with dread. He would likely recognize the implications of Ripto's dark ritual and the Faund girl's newfound sentience. The enslaved fawns would descend into despair. Darken's declaration would be a final blow to their hopes. Ripto would be basking in the moment. This was his triumph, a manifestation of his power. Following Ripto's declaration, the newly named Darken, a chilling, beautiful Faund girl with eyes like night and fur the color of a sunset, approached Elora. She stood before the chained fawn, studying her face with an unsettling intensity. "Mommy?" Darken whispered, her voice still thin and uncertain. A hint of confusion in her black eyes. Then, with a sudden realization, she added, Mother? The word spoken by a creature born of dark magic and bearing Elora's desecrated eye was a profound and horrifying twist of the knife for Elora. Elora, despite her pain, would be speechless, a torrent of conflicting emotions swirling within her. The horror of Ripto's creation and the perversion of her own essence would be palpable to hear this twisted reflection of herself, a being created by her enemy, addressing her as mother, would be deeply disturbing. She might struggle even harder against her chains, a raw cry of anguish escaping her lips as she grappled with this new grotesque parody of family and her own role in this nightmare.